Orders to tonight's family support series, and thank you guys for joining us. My name is Quan, and my pronouns are he, him, his. You guys may be familiar with me through article format. I am finally here to speak to you guys in person, and I'm so excited. I currently serve as the student coordinator for family programs, and I'm going to be your moderator for tonight. Tonight, I'm joined by members of the George Mason community from our Office of the Counseling and Physical Psychological Services, also known as CAPS, and then also our Center of Advancement and Wellbeing. For our family support series, our topic tonight is going to be end of semester help tips. Um, and our panelists are going to present some information to you, and we're also going to answer some questions after they have presented their presentations. While the panelists are speaking, we do ask that you guys use the Q&A button instead of the chat button. You'll find that at the bottom of your screen in order for you guys to ask questions, and then we'll also be answering your questions through those chats as well. And we also have a live transcript, closed captioning for those who need it, and the session will also be recorded and posted to our website and our YouTube channel. So before we get started, I'm going to allow everybody that we have here to introduce themselves, your pronouns, what you do here at Mason, and then we'll get started with both of you guys' presentation. So I guess we'll start with the rest of the family team, and then we can go Adam and Kalina.
Good evening, families. My name is Camille Clark. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I am the Associate Director of Family Programs in the Office of New Student and Family Programs.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mackenzie Nelson. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Assistant Director of Family Programs.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kayla Tingley. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Graduate Assistant for Family Programs in New Student Family Programs, and I'm also a master's student in the Higher Education program at George Mason.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Moore. I'm an LCSW. I work at Counseling and Psychological Services as an outpatient therapist as the coordinator for case management services.
Hi, everyone. My name is Zarina Khan. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Assistant Director of Student Wellbeing Programs in the Center for the Advancement of Wellbeing.
All right, I get to go first here and talk a little bit about counseling and psychological services at George Mason. Hopefully, some of this information will be fresh for you or a review. And of course, if you have those questions, use the Q&A, and I'd be happy to answer those as we go along. First, I'd like to say that I know that you all could choose your evening time to do anything, and I'm so glad that I get to spend it with you. So thank you so much for your time and your energy with reviewing these services. So yeah, let's begin here with the next slide. So today we're going to go over the counseling and psychological services because we offer a lot of services. Ways to make an appointment. I actually have an amazing team that I work with, and they actually have made this really cool video. So we'll get to watch that so we can maybe demystify some stuff for you. And then we're also going to talk about acknowledge some other campus resources that could also be considered outpatient therapy, and then talk about the differences with that, and then also how to support your student as a family member may be going to George Mason here in the near future. With the next slide, we'll talk about the CAP services. So stay with me. So that top picture is Sub 1 building, and we're located on the 3rd floor. We offer individual and group therapy services. The individual services are offered all year long, except for when we're on winter break, of course. And group therapy is typically offered in the fall and in the spring. Sometimes we have, if the demand is there during the summertime, but we can always find group therapy for individuals with case management services. And also there's other group therapy available on campus that we can connect you to. Psychiatry services are available. So that is going to be some medication management. If this is something new to you, or if you're coming to George Mason with already a regiment, come by and give us all the questions that you have. The psychiatry services can be really challenging for someone coming to George Mason from out of state because they would may be using a different form of insurance that isn't maybe in this area. So I wanted to let you all know that I'm part of the case management team, and we really pride ourselves on being really flexible and having lots and lots of options. So if you're looking for psychiatry services from out of state, don't let that hinder you at all. We have lots of options and some free, which is great. And then if you're in state, of course, we can transition those to campus. And then if you are currently uninsured, we can help you find a low cost psychiatry services, either through us, Student Health Services, or through Timely Care. So I just said all those words, but you have main thing is you need to take away is you have options, and then also we can find low cost prescriptions. Referrals for services with case management can range from finding someone that specializes maybe in a specific topic, or maybe you're looking for an identity that's really important to you. We can help you find that through insurance or through affordable means. And case management services really range. They really range from a lot of things. So if you have any questions about any mental health avenues, journeys, pathways, that's really where you're going to be having a 30-minute conversation with someone and kind of making a game plan. It's not just one session. You can plan multiple. They can be in person or virtual, along with our in person and virtual groups. So please don't let anything like a maybe get in your way between you and case management services. We also offer daytime and after hours crisis supports. So I like to call this, whenever I do the check-ins, which we'll show you how to do a check-in here in a second, that I like to call it like a worm line sometimes, because like you don't have to be having the worst day of your life to use this crisis support line. Some people use it just because they maybe need a neutral third party. They're going through a tough time. And it's a really valuable resource to talk to a licensed professional and kind of get their feedback in the moment. It doesn't have a time frame. So like if you think like, oh, I just don't want to bother someone for 10 minutes, like, hey, you can call them for 40 minutes. You can call them for an hour. They're there for you 24 hours a day. So that resource to Georgia Mason students is really invaluable. We also offer throughout the spring semester, fall, and summertime, occasionally in the summertime, if the demand allows it, but we're usually getting ready for the fall and doing orientations, skill-based workshops. So these usually go around midterms and finals, and we're really there to kind of provide those resources and skills that could be really helpful during that time. Of course, we're doing outreach events and wellness programs. One of our most popular wellness program, you're going to see it around campus, is yoga poses and doggy noses. So every fall we usually do. Yeah, I see some. Hey, thanks, Kayla. Yeah, that's a really popular one where we partner with animal shelter and get some puppies coming on down the aisle while we get to do some relaxing poses from a licensed yoga individual. So that's pretty amazing. And then, of course, if you ever have any questions as a family member, if a faculty and you are maybe collaborating, or even if you have questions about a fellow peer, we have this consultation service that's available during typical business hours. You can walk in and just ask questions, and then you'll talk to one of our consultants that we always have available to kind of guide you or give you some advice. So again, those are all those things are available online for a little bit more information. You can go to the next slide, just to be respectful of time. Thank you, Camille. All right, this is what our website looks like. And from all the things that I just went over, it would just be all this drop-down tabs at the top there. So that could really get you far. I just wanted to demystify what it kind of looks like. The one thing I want you to take away here is you actually cannot make an appointment through our website. We really value the interaction. So we want you to call during typical business hours or come in during typical business hours to get connected, because we don't want that conversation to be one-sided. We really want to be like, hey, why are you seeking services? And what would you prefer? So if you're looking for all of the things that I went over, except for getting connected, that would be the website. We'll go over how to get connected here in a moment, like I said before. I wanted to share that CAPS has a diverse staff with regard to race, ethnicity, country of origin, gender, sexual orientation, religious beliefs, age, languages spoken, professional discipline, and intervention approaches that all contribute to the excellent service that we provide in the Mason community. So what does this really mean? This means that you can come in and we really like it when people are kind of overt about their needs. Like, hey, I really prefer working with a female identified therapist. That's amazing. We love for you to say that. And some people come in like, hey, I really want to find a therapist that has a similar background in religion as I do. We've had that recently. And so I want you to know that at CAPS, all the therapists list all their modalities, so like cognitive behavioral therapy, and all of the identities that they hold that they're available to provide. So if you come in during a check-in and you would like to have a specific experience or work with a specific individual, that's really encouraged. And we want you to share your preferences, because these experiences are definitely they're intimate, right? And they should be tailored to the experience that you're looking for. So I just wanted to drive that home. Right. And the next slide, I want to share a little bit more about the therapy piece here. So if you choose to go with individual therapy or group therapy, I just wanted to let you know that CAPS is not going to be able to provide any follow-up information to anyone like family members, friends, or faculty about what you're going through without written permission. So that would be a release of information that lasts 1 year and expires on it by itself. I want to expand a little bit more about this. So I've had students that come into my office for individual therapy, and they're like, does my professor know that I'm in therapy? The answer is absolutely not. No one knows that you're in therapy. It's not in your transcripts. If you have a family member that pays part of your tuition, just because they maybe pay it, or it doesn't matter. It's all siloed off, just like any other therapy practice would be. And we also don't accept insurance. So this is free. So it doesn't show up on your insurance. So this is a really confidential space. It's very siloed off. Like even President Washington doesn't even know that you're using CAP services. So I just wanted to drive that home. But one thing that is helpful can be like a barrier for some people is like, well, I want to know how they're doing, or I want to get a check-in on them, because we at CAPS don't check in on people. That would be the Student Support and Advocacy Center, which is on the same level as us, right beside us. We're actually neighbors, third floor on sub 1. So it's better able to directly reach out to Mason students of concern. So if you ever want to make a referral for a student, either as a peer, as a family member, or as a community member, you can do that, and you can get that follow up maybe that you're maybe looking for. But this is a confidential space, just like any other therapy space. Okay, the next slide. So I mentioned Timely Care a moment ago. This is we have about 40,000 students, and we see individuals every other week because of just demand. And we have about 24 to 25 therapists. And so we also offer, the majority of campuses in Virginia have Timely Care, which is a virtual only platform, but it's really cool because you can go in, peruse profiles of licensed therapists in Virginia that you can talk to, and you get 12 sessions every 365 August 1st. So if you were to start therapy in like now, and then if you went into July, then you would do 12 sessions, and then August 1st, it would be 12 sessions, right? So all you have to do is be registered for 1 hour, one credit hour to access this service. They also offer psychiatry, which is that medication management piece, which is really great. That's low cost. And they also offer this really cool thing called Talk Now. So you can get, instead of calling the warm line, which is helpful for some people like to have a little bit more like of a chat, like a text chat, which is totally fine. You can do that, and you can also request a video chat, which is pretty cool. You won't be connected with the same therapist every time, so there's no continuity with that with Talk Now, but you can still talk to that licensed therapist, which can be incredibly helpful. Some people find this really a lot more convenient than like a traditional in-person therapy setting because of the flexibility, which is really helpful. But if you have any more questions about that, of course, you can scan that QR code, or again, go to our website, because we'll have a link at the CAPS website. We'll have a link to all the information, how to get connected, and all that good stuff. I think on the next slide here, we'll talk about how to get connected. So how to schedule an appointment, where we're located. This is Kishani, who is one of Dr. Kishani Pereira, who's one of our wonderful therapists and social media experts. So the confidence is amazing in this video. I honestly give it up to her. So I will let her do all the talking, and of course I'll answer any questions. It may not be giving you the audio. Can you hear the audio, Kayla? It's okay. So right now we're located in sub one, then you would walk through the front doors, down this hallway, and you would kind of stop at this marker, and then one of our three friendly front desk receptionists would greet you. The question that they're going to ask you is for your G number, and then you're going to go over here and do a small amount of paperwork, and that's just you consenting to services that you're able to know what you're doing and why you're here. You would go over this waiting area. Kishani would walk you over to the check-in booth. Then you would have a short 10 to 15-minute meeting to go over all of these services that we offer and see which ones are going to be most helpful for you. Then usually uh, by this me and Kishana are saying the same thing. We'll get you connected, get you scheduled, which is typically like a week and week and a half out for individual therapy, and for group therapy. These at the beginning of the semester, you want to come in and get connected because it's a closed group. So it closes after about 3 weeks, and it'll continue throughout the semester. And also that these services are free. These are paid for by your student fees, so there's no additional cost. So that's usually how people get connected. But again, I said you can call. So if you wanted to call and do a phone check-in for convenience, you're more than welcome to do that. A little bit more information on the left there that we already went over. And I think that this might be my last slide for questions. Kwan or Kayla, thank you. There we go. All right, so we're going to go over a couple more. Yeah. So when to encourage your student to seek CAP services. When they so a lot of the times individuals like faculty members, they'll come and ask me questions, or family members whenever they do that consulting piece. It's like, when is a good time to suggest the service? It's like whenever someone's out of their normal or away from their baseline. So whenever they feel overwhelmed, anxious, or persistent sadness, whenever they feel whenever they are withdrawing from friends, classes, or unusual activities, when they talk about difficulty managing stress, sleep, or motivation, when they're struggling with a recent breakup, loss, major transition, and when they mention feeling hopeless or talk about not knowing what to do next. I wanted to mention that a lot of people say, well, it's really confusing whenever my new student comes to campus, and maybe what's the difference between homesickness and some of these symptoms? And I want to say, nothing. That bring them in. Tell them to come in if they are experiencing that homesickness, if they're experiencing that difficult and transition. How amazing would it be to have a neutral party in front of them, kind of validating them and saying, yeah, this is hard. And it is typically hard for a lot of people. I just want to normalize this, not minimize it, but I just want to normalize it. So if you're recognizing any skews from baseline, even if it's homesickness, I want to encourage you to say, like, hey, just go talk to somebody at CAPS. It's free, you have nothing to lose, and it's totally confidential. It won't show up anywhere on your records. And the next slide, I am going to talk a little bit more about barriers, some typical barriers that some people experience when coming into CAPS. And sometimes the first one's definitely going to be stigma around seeking help or feeling like they should handle things on their own. Some stigma that individuals I've had, they call for a check-in. They say, actually, I don't want to be around the front door because I maybe work in the building, or some of my friends are in the building, and I don't want them to see me going into CAPS. We offer virtual therapy. So we can get you a virtual space, a physical space scheduled, and you can do virtual therapy for all of your sessions at CAPS to reduce that stigma. And of course, you can schedule during different times and then use timely care, of course. But we can always work around all of those comfort zones. Lack of time due to academics, work, or family responsibilities. If somebody comes in and says, like, I want therapy, but I maybe just want it every 3 weeks, I will only want it every month, that's totally fine. We know that school comes first. So don't ever let a lack of time be the barrier that prevents them from coming in. Uncertainty about what therapy is, or fear of being judged. If they ever kind of feel like they should like have a really great therapy experience for their first one, I say have the experience that you have, and don't put too much pressure on yourself. And just remember that if you're first time going to therapy, just enjoy going to therapy. That's really your job. Not knowing how to start or where to go. Hopefully we demystified some of that. The biggest thing is it's free, it's accessible, and it's right here on campus. And cultural and familial beliefs that discourage mental health support. I would encourage individuals, if they're experiencing this, to come in and talk to a CAPS staff member, and we can help guide with any questions or thoughts. Of course, you can call, and but this is typically one that we experience with individuals. And then beliefs about their problems aren't serious enough to warrant therapy. individuals not thinking that they maybe deserve this space in the therapy chair across from me. I want to say again, to normalize it but not minimize it, that of course any issue or challenge is worthwhile, and especially when processing with a therapist at CAPS. I think now is going to be my time when I get to ask if there's any questions or thoughts. But I could, oh, no, actually not. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about mental health. Okay. It's tough not seeing the next slide come up. So thank you for your grace, and hopefully you're laughing at me and or with me. Either way, if it brought a smile to your face. So mental health crisis, absolutely. I talked a little bit about it with Talk Now feature, but of course that soft line, it could be a hotline sometimes. And often we have professors that call it because they're concerned. We have parents that call it because of they have concern. So you don't necessarily have to be a student to use that warm line or hotline. Again, it's on our website, but here is a really good slide to kind of talk about like when it's available. So if a crisis is happening during typical hours, just encourage them to walk in. Those typical hours are going to be 9 to 5. Every day except for Wednesday, that's 12:30 to 5. So if somebody's having like a tough day, and they're like, I don't know where to go, CAPS. Tell them to come to CAPS. We all have that check-in booth is always available, and we can talk to students and get them the support that they need, and make a plan, of course. All right, I'm not going to say what the next slide is, but there we go. Okay, I thought it would be that. Any thoughts, any questions about these services?
So we're gonna hold on questions until the end. Just a friendly reminder, guys, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A chat. We're gonna allow Zarina to do her presentation next, and then we'll do a cumulative question and answer at the end of both presentations, okay?
Thank you.
Alrighty.
All right. Hey, everyone. So we are the Center for the Advancement of Wellbeing, and we are an interdisciplinary center that promotes well-being practices as well as the science behind those practices so that students can play an active role in their well-being journey and feel like they're more informed when making choices and identifying what well-being practices are going to best serve them. So in terms of the services that we offer, all of our services are free to students. We don't see students one-on-one on a clinical level. That's not to say students can't come by. They're always welcome to come by and say hello or meet with our staff for any reason. But most of our offerings are more along the lines of different programs and events, everything from small group cohort experiences to larger scale signature events and programming. We also have self-paced tools and resources if students want to explore different well-being topics on their own. And then we also have learning experiences for academic credit. So students can declare to one of our 2 well-being minors or enroll in the well-being residential learning community through housing. So we have a really good variety of services and resources for students. So there's something for everyone to engage their well-being. And then just for context, at George Mason, we define well-being as building a life of vitality, purpose, resilience, and engagement. So we can go on to the next slide. When it comes to supporting your student towards the end of the semester, a really great way to help them during this time is to help them develop their resilient skills. So a lot of people think resilience is only relevant when you've gone through something tragic or traumatic. But in CWB, we really focus on students' ability to adapt and navigate even daily life stressors or adversities that most people go through. Another myth about resilience is that you either have it or you don't, but that's not true at all. Resilience is not a trait that your students are born with or not born with. It's still a skill that they can learn and develop, and anyone can benefit from learning these skills. So an important role that you have in this process is really helping your student increase their self-awareness of their own values, thoughts, and emotions, because that's going to increase their potential for resilience. Because students, especially when they're at the beginning of their college and academic journey, they often look to others and they look outside themselves for the answers or for guidance. And a really great thing that you can do to help them is to act as a sounding board and really help them reflect on what they want and what they need and help them develop that sense of identity, because that's going to help them kind of think about their own intuition and be able to develop those skills for navigating challenges on their own in the future with, of course, the support of their family supporters and peers. So we can go on to the next slide. So this is just an image from our mental health and well-being guidebook that was developed for faculty and staff, but I did include the link there in case you're interested in taking a look at that as well. But it basically outlines that resilience is composed of a variety of different things, but one of the most important ones that you can also support your student on is just that sense of social support. So the degree to which students can rely on others for support, advice, or encouragement. There's been a vast amount of research done that shows that social support is one of the biggest predictors of a college student's well-being. So even just the little things that you're doing to support your student can have a really profound impact on their resilience and overall mental health. So we can go on to the next slide. So when it comes to the end of the semester, you're probably noticing your student might be a little more anxious, a little more overwhelmed. They might be sharing things that are stressing them out. So like I said before, a really great thing that you can do is when you're in these conversations with them, kind of using those active listening skills and allowing them to generate solutions to these problems on their own and seeing what they come up with so they can practice identifying what strategies and things work for them. So helping them remember all the times that they've successfully navigated challenges can be a really helpful strategy because they can look back on those times and think, oh, what was helpful for me then? You know, who did I talk to then? Or what did I do then to help me get through this? Is that something that I could do to get through my current situation? Another way that you can really help them in these conversations is reminding them that they are already resilient people and they wouldn't be where they are now if they weren't. So sometimes it just takes that reminder and being able to call on those resilient skills that they do have so that they can continue to actively apply them as they navigate the remainder of the semester. And so I put a QR code and a link on this slide as well to a handout that outlines Southwick and Charney's 10 strategies for building resilience. This is a great resource to look into for students to identify which skills they're already doing really well at and which ones they might want to learn to develop further. And then lastly, just with all the overwhelm that they might be feeling, there might be a lot of things that they feel are outside of their control. Just having them identify what is one tiny action that they can take right now that'll help them feel like they're making a little bit of progress on the issue that they're experiencing. Just something small and that feels within reach that they can do right now to keep those anxieties at bay. So we can move on to the next slide. So I mentioned that CWB has a lot of different free resources for students around the topic of resilience, the first being our Resilience Badge program. So this is a program that students can complete. It's a set of 6 modules where students can reflect on the role that resilience plays in their life, and they can develop their own resilience plan using science-backed strategies. And then at the end of these 6 modules, they can actually earn their resilience badge through Credly, and they can list this credential on LinkedIn or on their resume because employers have identified resilience as a self-management strategy that they want their employees to have. So if your student is able to list this credential on their resume and articulate their resilience skills and training in a job interview, that can also really help set them apart as a candidate in the job interview process. And then this is available as a series of self-paced modules, but they can also enroll in it as a 1-credit course if that was something that they'd be interested in. You can go on to the next slide. So Bridge to Belonging, I mentioned earlier that social support is one of the biggest predictors of well-being. And so the Bridge to Belonging program is a small group cohort program that students can sign up for, where they would be in a group with 6 to 8 other students, and they would get to know those students over those sessions. And it just gives them a chance to meet other people and kind of find that sense of belonging outside of the context of their classes or their other extracurriculars. So it's just a really great way to meet people that students might not have met had they not enrolled in the program. We can go to the next slide. So the last resource I wanted to highlight was Clifton Strengths. And so this is a widely used assessment that typically costs money, but for Mason students, it's completely free. And it gives them a report of their top 5 natural talents, and it gives them actionable tips for how to apply those natural talents to their academics, to their relationships, to lead a more purposeful life. And then also how to navigate challenges using those natural talents. So if they are struggling with something, they can maybe approach that challenge from the lens of their top 5 and come to a solution or determine actions that they might not have thought of before. We can go on to the next slide. So those were just some of the resources that we have at CWB. You can visit our website, which is wellbeing.gmu.edu, to learn more. And then we also have our Patriots Thriving Together initiative, which includes CWB's resources, as well as other university-wide wellbeing resources like CAPS and other really great offices on campus. We can go to the next slide, which I think is Q&A.
Perfect. Well, before we get into Q&A, I want to thank you both for all the insightful information that you gave us. We are, again, we have our Q&A button at the bottom of the screen for you guys. So if you guys have any questions as we go into this process, please put them in there. We have about 30 minutes for questions. To kick us off with questions, you guys can both jump in when you feel necessary. I'd like to know some of the changes and needs that you guys have observed in specific students with mental health over the past years when it comes towards the end of the semester.
Did you want to ask me or Zarina?
Oh, for both of you guys.
Yeah, I can see the most common thing is just stress management skills and also just like the normalization of the college experience is going to be one of the major things that I've assisted with or had the pleasure of assisting with. But of course, I don't want to speak for if you had anything to add yourself.
No, I would agree with those. I think just overall stress management, for sure. And just again, trying to identify like what stress management skills work for them, what self-care looks like for them. And just navigating self-care in general is something that I see a lot at the end of the semester.
Thank you for that. My next question. So you guys discussed some of the barriers that prevent students from finding mental health resources. Can you go into what are the ways to prevent those barriers or to get past those barriers that certain students may have and how we as family members and supporters can assist in doing that?
Yeah, that's a really great question.
Yeah.
I think that the biggest thing to do is I think it's incredibly isolating to need something and not to be able to have it, right? So it's a lonely experience, right? And so I think one of the wonderful things is if you know about it as a family member, you can recognize within your student that that's a wonderful thing that they've done and shared with you. And then the next thing is to expand that, right? Say like, look how good this felt when you shared this with me, right? That this need, let's share it with other people. Let's go. Can you go to CAPS and talk to them about this? Because I'm a wonderful mom. I'm a wonderful dad, but I'm not a wonderful therapist. And I'd really like you to see a wonderful therapist or a case manager that can get you connected to the resources in the community, or look for the things that maybe I just don't have, and I can be here supporting you as that family member. That would be where I would start, at least.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think just being open to validating your student struggles and reminding them that you are there for them as a resource, but also knowing when something is beyond your capacity, of course, like Adam was saying. And then also just encouraging them to make time. I know one of the barriers listed was not having time for in utilizing resources or engaging in well-being practices. It's so important to make time for those, even if it's just a little bit of time in a student's schedule where they can engage in whatever well-being practices matter to them. That is going to be so important for their overall well-being. And then there's also this idea of, oh, if I take time for my well-being, my academics will suffer. I could be studying or doing this during that time, but you're actually going to have a greater yield when you take time for yourself and are able to, be rejuvenated through whatever well-being practices you engage in. It's going to actually positively impact your overall academics as well. So just reminding them of that and encouraging them to explore well-being in that way.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. We do have some questions from the family members. One of them being for out of state parents, can we use the consultation services?
At CAPS, you absolutely can. You can call in and request to talk to a consultant, and that typically will get back to you within like 30 minutes at the latest. And of course, you can talk as long as you'd like, and then we could go over resources. So yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. And then another question we have is, do you have a release of information form that students can sign authorizing the school to share information with the parents regarding the student's mental health crisis?
So do we have an ROI for students that can sign? So if you are experiencing a crisis in the state of Virginia, you ha in 20 it's very interesting. So I've been doing this for 11 years, and I did a lot of crisis work at the beginning of my career. And so with confidentiality, it kind of errs on, is this person's best interest in mind, right? So if they're having a crisis, a mental health crisis, and there is imminent risk to self or others, then of course, then confidentiality would be waived because of those three reasons. If anything was court ordered, if you're at imminent risk to self or others, or if you know of abuse of a child, adult, or an incapacitated adult, right? So those three reasons are how in the therapy field we waive that. So if they were having a mental health crisis, of course the parent would be contacted by a dean of students, and that is usually Rose Pascaral or Juliet blank Godlove, who would do that immediate reach out. They don't wait till the next morning, it's the night of. So if they were to call campus police to get support, because our campus police are trained for uh, encouraging, or I guess I think that they have amazing training for supporting individuals that are going through a mental health crisis, and I work with them weekly, and they are very supportive of students. So of course they would help them, and then initiate a report, or if they use the protocol, which was the after hours, the warm hotline that I was talking about. If they use that, then a CAP staff is always on call, and they would know that they maybe were transported, or there's a need for a transport to a higher level of care, or if Mason police were involved, they would initiate that call to either way. So there's so many avenues for them to get in contact with you. Yes. So the answer is yes, absolutely.
Thank you for that. All right, another question for you guys. What are some signs that a student may be experiencing mental health struggles, and what are some ways that you guys would say are ways that families can insert themselves to help out with those signs?
Would you like for me to go, or would you?
You can start off.
Okay, cool. So I think one of the biggest signs I spoke about earlier, it was baseline, right? So because everyone is so different with their bandwidth, their ability to handle stress or changes, right? So I like to say that straying from baseline for longer periods of time is going to be harder to self-correct. People often come to me and they say, "Well, I've been feeling this way for so long." And I was like, wow, like, when I have the flu, I'm out for like a week, right? And then I need a whole other week just to get back to my baseline. Why wouldn't mental health be like that? Of course, it wouldn't be like you getting back immediately, but like it's going to take time. So if you've been stressed out for a semester, you might need a semester just to get back to your baseline, right? So I do recognize that individuals have their own ability to bounce back, or if they have a strong independence, that could be something that to be celebrated, but it can also be something to just keep an eye on, because often with perfectionism is a really tough thing. Independence, we usually get students that come in with amazing grades, but not doing too well emotionally, right? So I wouldn't use grades or academic success to measure things, especially with the emotional health of these students, because I've seen a lot of people with crippling depression uh, have a 4.0. But then, of course, is that sustainable for extended periods of time? I don't know. So those are just my thoughts.
Right. I was also thinking similarly, if there's any very obvious changes, even if they're not voicing that something is wrong, any obvious changes in behavior, like if someone's usually pretty talkative and now they're kind of quiet and more of a homebody, or if it's the opposite, maybe someone's acting out maybe a little more than usual, just those changes in behaviors or personality is something to it could be nothing, but it's also just something to look into, like, "Hey, I just wanna check in, what's going on?" That sort of thing.
Thank you guys for that. Another question we have is, how do you balance academic expectations with college life slash fun?
Great question. So in terms of strategies, I think, of course, it's gonna vary from student to student, but building in time, again, time for yourself, whatever that looks like for the student is gonna be so important. For some people, rest looks like time by themselves engaging in a hobby. For others, that rest looks like spending time with friends. Um, so again, just building that time into one's schedule is going to be super important because if you don't make time for it, it can so easily kind of get lost in the mix.
Yeah. I think so. Balancing fun, well, I think of like balancing just the college experience with academics. And I think that the if you are basing this experience off of like a high school experience, I think that could skew some stuff for you, unfortunately, because this is nothing like high school, right? Because of the just autonomy, right? If you do not show up to class, you get marked as absent, but that's kind of it, right? Like, and if you don't choose to leave your dorm room, nobody's gonna come knocking on the door, right? And so that autonomy is an amazing experience that individuals have, but it's also like a lot at once. So I think what is important here is to constantly encourage them to say like, hey, let's redefine success. What we thought would be successful here, like what does it feel like now, right? Like, is it gonna does it I know it feels different, but does it mean it's any less successful if you have maybe this experience instead of that experience? I'm coming from this, like, from a mental health capacity, and I know I just wanted to mention that like loneliness is going to be something, because of course we have so many amazing things on campus to engage in, but it can be overwhelming. Mason 360 is amazing, but it's also like list after list of things. So if you are encouraging, or if you're having a student that's in front of you, which is on every college campus, right? Of saying like, if you're feeling a little lonely, like, why don't you pick out like one thing to do in like the next month? Just one thing. Like, you don't have to do something every week. But like, redefine success as like how they would do that. How balancing it with the academics. It just depends on how many hours, what courses, what major they're taking. I know computer science is a really demanding major. So if I had a computer science individual in front of me and they were like, I really want a social life, I'd be like, can you? Is that possible for you to have the social life you want and have the major that you want? Because I would never want you to be in a position where you are gonna fail, right? So just kind of knowing the whole picture, it could be really helpful of saying like, hey, this is the balancing act is always going to be changed. It's always going to be teeter tottering. But what's important is that you recognizing that like, okay, this needs to change, this needs to go up, this needs to go down. That's the helpful thing instead of just getting stuck. I think that could be like the most important thing. So if between balancing academics and fun campus stuff, if you feel stuck, we just need to redefine success.
Thank you for that. Such great answers. Next, okay, as staff members, what do you guys think is the most important roles in reducing stress?
I know for CAPS, we like you'll see our signs everywhere. We have a really cool Instagram. I don't know if like those two things go together, cool Instagram anymore. But like we are very like overt. We're like, okay, midterms are like 2 weeks. Come and see us now. Meet your therapist now before midterms because like then you'll have like your appointment. So like we are like really overt about like saying the finals are coming up. They're like 3 weeks away, they're 2 weeks away, so you're going to see a lot of stuff from us being in the Johnson Center. Some people call it the JC. So we'll have a booth and then like we'll just like be sitting there and be like, what do you need to know about CAPS? How do we get you connected? I think that's one of the most important things for us is just to know that like the stamp is there, right? Like these are things that will happen during the semester, and these will need us to be present. Another thing that is important is that things change, like all the time. We're in Northern Virginia, and things are changing all the time, right? We're always growing, always moving, different populations, and so one of the biggest things is that we are always recognizing current events and needs, and we're always able to kind of be flexible with those things, which has been really, really helpful for us. So if we have something on campus that it could be that it would be helpful to have a CAPS member at, we're there. So like if you have your student and they're like, hey, like I want to go to this thing, but like maybe I don't, like, hey, just be like, hey, sometimes CAPS has like support spaces at like big events like that if you want to talk to them about stuff. So this would be called support spaces, and they're totally available.
Yeah, I think in terms of CWB staff, we work really hard to practice what we preach in terms of well-being and also just provide students with built-in opportunities to engage their well-being in different ways. So just having an open door policy for students to chat with us if that's something that they need, having classes available where students can learn a specific well-being skill. We'll have sound baths scheduled every month where students can just come and just exist in the space. They can take a nap if they want, they can engage, they can participate. So just creating those open spaces and then also creating a culture of kindness is really important to us in CWB. We oversee an initiative called Mason Chooses Kindness. And so we are all about promoting kindness and really making it part of the culture here so that no kind act goes unnoticed, and just really emphasizing this idea that it costs nothing to be kind. And so as staff members, we definitely want to practice what we preach in that regard, but also encouraging and calling out kind acts when we see them, because kindness yields more kindness. So that's something that we are also really passionate about. And I think that we as staff play a very important role in.
Thank you for that. A follow-up question off of something you guys both just talked about. I see that you guys have methods of actually getting your information out to the students that you guys are here and available. Are there can you guys speak on maybe some specific events that you guys hold, or maybe tablings and things of that sort that you guys have on campus for students to optionally attend so they can learn more about your offices and how to get involved or receive those services from you all?
Yeah, so CWB is actually having our Spring into Wellbeing event tomorrow. But every April we have an event called Spring into Wellbeing that just provides students with an opportunity to engage their well-being and socialize and build connections. And that's one way that they can get involved with our office. We also do a lot of events like World Kindness Day, Random Acts of Kindness Day, in terms of like tabling and outreach. I'm trying to think what else. And then aside from that, they can we're present at a lot of different types of tabling events, so they can always stop by our booth. Like we'll be at iCafe tomorrow. And then yeah, they can email any one of our staff to get connected or if they want to learn more about something.
Just kind of saying that's kind of the similar thing that we would do. We would go to high population spaces, or we can be requested by professors or club members. I've had like a club ask me to come and speak about CAP services. We've had fraternity sororities request the same thing, just to kind of have that Q&A, which is really, really helpful. We really find success with like just doing stuff in the quad, like on the green space right in front of step one. So like we do tie-dye stuff, we do like paint rocks and then like hide them, and then it's like a cool message. And we have stickers on the bottom. It's like return to CAPS for a free prize. And it's like it's cool stickers or something like that. So we really get creative because first we find joy in that. And then like second, it's like everyone benefits, right? Like, because like who doesn't want to like on their way to their class like get donuts, right? So like we have like all of these outreach projects consistently throughout the year. They're on Mason 360, and then of course they're on our Instagram. But I think the most important thing is just like they're super accessible. Like we're like in the JC where when it's cold, or we're out on the quad when it's warm. So we really, really like to be involved as much as possible. I've even got connected with an RA, so I was able to come into like a building and do like a presentation of like how to get connected, and then we play like a game afterwards, which is really helpful. Just to kind of be like, hey, I'm a therapist, and I'm like totally a normal person, and it's okay to ask me any questions if you have any about getting connected to CAPS. I think that's just really helpful, just to kind of be present.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. All right. And I think we have time for at least one more question. I'm going to make this one a fun one for both of you guys. If you can, could you guys share with us some success stories in mental health growth or in well-being that you've observed in students over the years of working?
Yeah, I can definitely share on my end. So I mentioned that I oversee the well-being residential learning community. And so students who are in this program, they all live on the same floor and they all take a class together. And so for this past fall, the first year well-being RLC, we're all in a class about building resilience. And at the end of the semester, their final project was it was kind of like science fair style. They got to share their resilience plans. And it was just really great to see the amount of growth that they each went through from the beginning of the semester to the end of the semester. And they just shared how helpful it was to learn and know of these different resilience skills at the start of in their very first semester, so that they could continue to use them in the years to come, as opposed to learning about them later on when they're in the midst of something stressful or intense. So that was just it was nice to see that growth process and to see them really reflecting on, what resilience means to them so early on in their academic journeys.
Yeah, I love that story. I'm like, it's making me think of all the students that I've worked with. So one of my favorite success stories is completely anonymous, right? Because that's what we do here. But I was working with this individual. It was their first semester. They were very anxious about meeting new people. They sat in the back of the classroom, and they really were having a hard time kind of conceptualizing what it would look like to be like a college student for them, right? And so we talked about all the things that we maybe talked about today a little bit. And then we, over the semester, kind of just normalized the experience, right? And we redefined success. I'm saying that again. And over time, over the next two semesters, they were able to kind of have an experience where they shared their successes and their failures, right? But it was always with a neutral third party. And that was really important for them because they did feel judged for maybe sharing these things with peers or their parents. I know that one of the main themes was that they didn't want to burden their parents with their experience. They just wanted to tell them the positive things, which I think is incredibly loving and kind. But of course, that isn't the truth of the matter, right? And so I encourage them to share, like, hey, tell them that you're having a hard time, right? And they eventually did, which was really helpful. And then they were able to kind of share with their friends, like, hey, like I have a friend now, or I have a couple of friends, and then it grew. And then I actually was walking on campus this past semester, well, in the fall, and I saw them as an orientation leader. And so, like, this was several years ago. So I was like, okay, so like this person that was in the back of the classroom, not able to kind of talk or advocate for themselves, is now like leading new students around the campus and like answering all of the questions. Of course, we didn't say hello. We just kind of saw each other and we kept walking. But in that moment, I knew that this person did all that work themselves. Like I of course gave them a map. I'm like, hey, like these are all the places you can go. Like, where do you want to go? And they chose the route. They did all the hard work. But it was really amazing to see their potential and for them to go for it.
Thank you both for sharing. Well, that was our final question. Again, I'd like to thank both of our panelists for joining our session today. We thank you for all the great information that you shared with us. For parents and families, just to recap, if you want to get any more information about CAPS or have any other questions, their things should be linked in the chat. I think we put it in there. I'll have somebody put it in there again for you guys. But you can find that at CAPS, CAPS .gmu.edu, and then for the Center of Advancement and Wellbeing, that's going to be CLIE.gmu.edu. All right, and then for us, for new student and family programs, you can find us at masonfamily.gmu.edu, and please keep an eye out for any announcements that we'll have for our future Mason Family Connection and words Quan, so sorry. And family support series that we'll have every month coming in the future. So yes, one big thank you to all you guys again for joining us tonight, and we hope you have a great evening.